Hello, everyone. I am Sarit Kozokin, the head of product at Cyberint. And today we will be talking about how threat intelligence play a critical role in preventing ransomware and other attacks. So let's start. So the agenda of today is to try and cover what is threat intelligence. We'll say a few words about that. And then we will talk about the classification of threat intelligence into targeted and non-targeted and what they mean and what you can do with it. Then we will show some evidence of ransomware and phishing as examples of trending attacks and some other examples at the end. I hope you will find this interesting, and I think we now can start. So let's talk about what threat intelligence is. So when we talk about threat intelligence, we're talking about information that organizations use in order to comprehend the threats that either used to in the past, may in the future, or currently are targeting the company or the organization. This intelligence is used to prepare, detect, and prevent cyber threats, aiming to take advantage of the organization's valuable resources. And we'll see how threat intelligence, as we noted, can help organizations prepare, detect, and prevent cyber threats. So the threat intelligence sources, you can see some examples here. Here at Cyberint, we have very wide coverage of where we collect this threat intelligence from. You'll see marketplaces, forums, pay sites, code repositories, or CVV shops. As I said, very wide range of options. Now, here at Cyberint, we classify this threat intelligence into targeted and non-targeted intelligence, and I'll explain what this means. So when we talk about targeted threat intelligence, that's this specific area in this chart, we refer to indications on threats that are aimed and are targeting specifically the company at hand. So this is something that relates either to the company or other companies, related entities and assets. When we talk about non-targeted threat intelligence, we mean the threat intelligence that can be trending out there, that can be either targeting the company or not necessarily so. You can see examples of that under global threats and regional industry intelligence. Both classifications, both types of intelligence can provide early indication on possible attack, possible threats, and they both can help facilitate with those facilitates with the threat mitigation. So we will give you some examples, what we mean by targeted and non-targeted. And again, you can take this and I hope this will help you understand this better. You can take this as a takeaway and try to implement it. So one example of targeted TI, early indication that we have seen, this is information or targeted TI against a large retailer in the US. We've seen brand abusing website impersonating company. That was the evidence that we've seen. Now, we believe it's an early indication since this suspicious website that included brand name and logo, we had good indication that this website is really impersonating the company. But we've seen that this domain is currently available for sale and that there's no user input, no user form on that website, which indicated that the actual phishing attack did not, or brand abusing attack did not take place yet. Now, the main thing that we recommend in this case is to take down the site, meaning approaching the site, the site hosting entity, and requesting to take the site down before it becomes a phishing site. Again, this is an early indication, so there's a lot that can be done. Once we do that, usually the site will go down, and then we can say that the phishing attack is prevented. So this is a good example of an early indication for a phishing attack. Another indication is against a large international financial institution where we've seen company source code being exposed. We've seen credentials and RSA private key of a developer published on a GitHub repository. of course, any attacker that will gain access to this information will be able to gain access to sensitive internal information of that institution. Now, the first thing to do in this case, once we have this evidence, is to validate the authenticity of the credentials and the key to see that they're still valid, they're not obsolete or relevant to the company. And once they are validated, the main thing to do, the main remediation, the immediate step is to reset those credentials. Another remediation option that may take longer, but very much necessary and recommended is for the code to be taken down from the repository, from the code repository. So we've seen two examples of early indication. And by the way, I think in this case, we've seen that the attack did not happen, meaning we got it as an early indication, early evidence, and no attackers really used it to gain access. So those two examples are good examples of targeted TI against specific companies that gave us early indications and facilitated with the prevention of possible attacks. Now, when we talk about non-targeted TI, there are a few use cases or a few type of activities that you can work with or you can do with non-targeted TI. The first one is looking at trending attacks. Okay, what's going on out there, the threat landscape. Okay, we have a tool called the news ticker, and you can see trending by classification of region, TTPs, CVEs, topics, attackers, and industry. You can see a snapshot of that. Looking in general information, you can see that looking at the trends of TTPs in this example, we drill down into TTPs. You can see what is trending as strong trend. Okay, we have 7 topics, 7 areas where we see strong indication of trend. So in the last few months, it means that a lot of the news coming in, when news ticker is a module that holds open source articles and information coming from various sources, magazines, blogs, etc. And you can see that those sources tell us that there's a strong trend of mentioning of rootkits and defray and digital certificates, etc. Okay, we see on the other hand that things like network denial of service is declining in its trend overall. Okay, so you can learn what is trending out there, you can learn the threat landscape, and you can learn from that in order for you to prepare of what's coming in the future. Okay, it doesn't mean that it targets you specifically, but it does mean that it might target you even today that you're not aware of or in the coming future. Another example of what you can learn from non-targeted TI, looking at the same module, you can look into what targets similar companies in your region and industry. So in this case, you can see a drill down from the news ticker where we filter by Germany, and we can look at the industries that are trending under Germany. And again, you can also look at the specific industry by looking at keywords and others in order to see which industries, for example, we see that are more targeted. So we see a medium strength of trending around defense or telecommunications, okay, in Germany. And again, as I said, you can also drill down in other directions, looking at TTPs or looking at specific topics. So you can learn a lot from that on what's coming up, how you should prepare. The last example from the news ticker is really to learn more about trending attacks in general. So if I put the keyword, a specific keyword like SolarWind or any other malware name or other attacks, I should be able to see the classification of the trends that relate to it, topics that relate to it, CVEs that relate to it, etc. But also, of course, drill down into the specific articles and learn more about what this means, and learn from that on what I need to do and how it will impact me potentially. So this is what we have around news. I would like to also mention around non-targeted TI, another tool that provides you intelligence around general intelligence about evidence, about IOCs, indications. In this example, this is what we call the forensic canvas. It's an investigation tool where you can put in any type of evidence that you stumbled upon or you learned about. And from that, we can give you a lot of context, a lot of relevant information. For example, if you put support center -ee.com, that's the original, that's the root entity that we start with. You can see all the, where it's hosted in, all the relevant IPs in this case, that is hosted in. You can see the subdomains behind it, okay? You can see the parent of specific subdomains. And you can see, what you can see here in red is, for example, in this case, it's hosted in a specific IP and it communicated with a file. And the red indication also indicates that we have seen this file as malicious, as part of a malicious activity. We've seen some activity in our research related to this file. So this gives you a good indication about the context and the story behind this IP and behind this domain. So this type is also non-targeted, since you're looking at generic data that can help you learn more and help you prepare, in your case, in case you might be impacted by this information. Just to move on to more specific attacks, I've been giving you examples of targeted and non-targeted TI, but I think we can move on to trending attacks, okay? Something that nowadays everyone is talking about, everyone is interested in, ransomware and phishing. So there are a few types of use cases that I can show you either targeted or non-targeted intelligence around. And I'll give you the example. So we classify in this case, for the sake of this presentation, 3 use cases. The first one is RDP access offered for sale. Okay, I'll talk about this in detail. Examples of email campaign, okay, that can be part of either a ransomware attack or a phishing attack, and leaked database, which is usually correlated with ransomware attacks. So let's look at the specific examples. Before we look at the specific examples, I just want to talk a little bit about a research we've done recently around healthcare and the way healthcare is built, the way healthcare institutes are built. You can see examples of a typical environment of a healthcare institute. And we've seen that the main things that should be covered and protected and looked at are really the ability to commit ATO and fraud attack against such an institute, or the leakage of data, or ransomware attacks that are very trendy around the healthcare institutes. For that, we, in our research, have shown some examples and shown the coverage around the ability to map the healthcare institute, to map the assets of a healthcare institute. You've seen this is a very complex environment. Also show the sources, the dark web monitoring, which is part of our sources coverage, and threat intelligence in general. Now, using those 3 vectors, you can see that we can prevent those trending attacks by alerting on open web interfaces that can start an ATO attack, alerting on open ports where employees' credentials can leak, and ransomware attacks that are shown, the outcome of it is shown as leaked employee credentials. So this is just a summary of this research that we've done in the healthcare world, and you'll see some examples of specific attacks just now. So if we're looking at healthcare and targeted TI and those trending attacks I just mentioned, one example of an early indication was against a large German biotech company, where we've seen a portion of leaked database found on a darknet marketplace. Now, this was a result of a ransomware attack where the sensitive information was uploaded into this marketplace. Now, the tactic here was just to publish a sample containing 5% of the data. And of course, the next step was to publish more. So this was a good indication that a ransomware attack has happened, and now we need to mitigate it as early as possible. For this, we recommend for the company to verify the exposed information and its validity, since we have a sample of it here. And the next step, the advanced step, in order to prevent the continuation of this attack, is to negotiate with the threat actor. So it means to potentially pay this threat actor and avoid further data exposure. So we cut it in an early stage. So that's a good example of a ransomware attack going on, and how to, with a targeted TI, try to prevent it in an early stage. Another example, it was against an American hospital. We talked about the use case of RDP access. In this case, an RDP access for a specific server was offered for sale in the online marketplace. Of course, this type of RDP access gives an attacker full control, full access to a remote PC belonging to that American hospital, which can be very dangerous and lead, of course, to a ransomware attack. So the first step that we recommend is to approach the threat actor. So we want to know more about, how they obtained this information and what else they have. So this is a very good strategy against those threat actors. And as part of this negotiation, also purchase the RDP from the threat actor, and then we can shed light on existing vulnerability and lead to mitigation, meaning this specific company can mitigate it in their systems. So that's another good indication from the healthcare industry. Now, in general, I mentioned the other types of evidence. In this case, it's a bank, large bank in APAC, where we've seen phishing HTML email templates being uploaded to 3 pay sites. Okay, very trendy, sounds very fishy. So we've seen with our research that some of the templates that we've seen there redirect the victim to the bank's brand abusing website. So there was a good indication that this is really a phishing preparation going on. And the main first activity for us and the recommendation to the customer was to further investigate. So we did most of the investigation, the follow-up here, and we found that the access that there was an access to a web shell used by the threat actor, the one that established the campaign, and this directed us to the original phishing kit and to the original threat actor. So first of all, it led us, of course, to more information about the context of this attack and the origin of this attack. And of course, the immediate remediation, the immediate action that should be taken is to take down those templates from those paste sites. Now, in general, I mentioned the RDP access for sale as a type of a phenomenon we've seen. Now, based on a recent research of a threat landscape report in APAC, we found out that multiple marketplaces operating in the deep and dark web offered for sale RDP access credentials. Now, most of them are against APAC-based organizations network. Once you get access to that, you can easily outsource the first stage as an attacker. They outsource the first stage by purchasing this and getting access into those organizations. And it's very important to mention that purchasing those credentials we're talking about in this online marketplace, we're talking about $300 to $100 maximum. So this is really easy to purchase, really cheap. Another indication of such an activity, we've seen it from the other side. So we've seen a post specifically saying that they want to access Philippine IT and telecom organizations. So a threat actor posted on a hacking forum that is willing to pay thousands of dollars for a remote access, either RDP or Citrix, for organizations in many regions. One of them was specifically the Philippines, but in many regions in APAC. So that's another indication from another direction about this type of activity. Now, just to give you, a last example of other threats that we can identify, research, do the correlation, everything in a very early stage, is another, you can see this example against a large retailer in the US, where we've seen in every repository, we've seen a phishing email impersonating a retailer CFO that was sent to external vendor, okay, impersonating the CFO. The email contained a zip folder with 2 Excel files, and the files were detected as correlated with CVE, in this case 2017-11882, which both have the same intent of allowing attackers to run arbitrary code. Now, both files communicated with malicious domain, and it was found to be hosting multiple malicious files, which led us to a specific Indonesian cyber team. So doing all this correlation based on that indication led us to the specific origin of that attack. Now, the remediation in this case, of course, it's quite straightforward. We have the IOCs. This retailer, this US retailer, got from us, the bottom line, the IOC that they need to work with, and they blocked internally based on that IOC. They made the blockage on their side, and this way, this type of attack was mitigated. Now, I would like to summarize. We talked about targeted and non-targeted threat intelligence. Both are covered by our platform, Argos Edge platform. Both can be used as early evidence. You've seen very good examples, recent examples against that can protect against trending attacks such as phishing and ransomware. On top of that, Cyberint has an extensive expertise in services such as request takedowns or advanced research or human activities for remediating and minimizing the impact of those rising attacks. For more information, please visit our website or send emails to us through the email address you see here. Okay, I see that we have time for questions. Let's see if anything comes in. Okay, I see the first question. You mentioned the research around healthcare. What other insights you can share with us? Okay. So as I mentioned, yes, we have done a deep research around healthcare and the trending attacks there. So I mentioned the attacks of phishing and ransomware as major ones. Now we see that they are even more trending. There's a recent example in Israel of a major attack against an Israeli hospital that is going on. Very much, by the book. So a very good illustration of that. We do see that the hospitals are very attractive. Okay, this is, we even research, the source of that. They are very attractive in a way that the environment is very complex and it's hard to manage and update at all times. Or keep up to date at all times. And we also see that the actual data that is being leaked as a result is very lucrative for the attackers. So we've seen many reasons to this rise. It also involves the type of people or the type or the staff that deals with so much, even today, even more today with COVID-19. So this is exactly the situation where attackers can leverage because they are very busy, because the staff is very, tired and very tending to be lured into clicking things easier. So the situation today even gives more opportunity for threat actors to try and hack healthcare institutes. Okay, moving on. I see that another question is coming in. Can you elaborate about threat intelligence sources? So we've seen the list, I showed it in the beginning, for both targeted and non-targeted information. So the main sources that I mentioned are the open, deep, and dark web, forums, marketplaces, CVV shops, and more. One of the things that we noticed recently is that Telegram is becoming a source of its own, in a way that Telegram channels are being used more and more for sharing leaked information by threat actors. We did a recent research about that. You can see it on our website. So that's a very recent indication. Let's see if anything else comes in. What is the rate of false positives you experience with the early indication of threat? So I did mention that we are giving a relatively early indication, which is more effective and more desired. But it can come with some type of false positives. We are very proud to say that the rate of false positives in our case is very low, because we employ all kinds of methodologies in order to make it more accurate, a type of machine learning methodologies. And another aspect, which is very important in our world, is that we have a managed service, a team of analysts and experts that would go over the data and reach it and validate it before it goes to the customer. So this way, the customer would get only the accurate and actionable, okay, with the relevant recommendations. We've seen all type of activities that we can also offer. So the information that goes out is actionable and accurate, and this complements our service, our solution. Let's see if anything else comes in. Yeah, I don't see anything coming in. So I would like to thank you for your time. I hope you find this interesting. I hope we'll be in touch very soon. As I said, you're welcome to either go to our website or contact us through the email. Take care, everyone. Thank you again. Bye-bye.